Welcome to Session 5 of eTech 5320. You will notice in the course schedule that we are indeed in Session 5 where we're creating a plan. You have the Chapters 5 and 6 quiz at the start of the session. You have the final project team preliminary plan due at the end of the session. And looking ahead, you have a Chapter 7 quiz coming up and an Article 1 reflection due. And so we're going to be taking a look at those items for this week. So if you come into Agendas and you look for Session 5, you'll see it's under the second unit. And in Session 5, we are looking at these three items. When you come in and see the final project team preliminary plan, you will see that I've also linked you into a Lives and Context link that you should recognize. It is the table in which you previously signed up. If you have not come in here, put your name in and linked it up to some contact information. That would be greatly appreciated. This is where you will contact your other team members this week. So please reach out to them and use that contact information as you complete your team collaborative plan. And remember, your collaboration can be done through Google Hangouts. It can be done through other means other than face-to-face. And so I put some information in here for you to remember when you're completing those design templates that you created last week, in which there should be a project-based learning design plan by Morrison in your book, coupled with the Buck Institute. So it should be a rather comprehensive design plan. 2 deadlines. Mid-session. Your design template already contains contribution by all team members, completed asynchronously preferably. And realize that as a strategist, the bulk of the project-based learning design plan will rest with you. And meet synchronously, could be through Google Hangouts, mid-session to finalize your team's design plan. End session, review your course schedule, and post accordingly. You'll be posting to a discussion thread, which is right here. So your final project team preliminary plan submission. You're to submit the Lives and Context final project team preliminary plan to the selected discussion thread, which is this link right here. In order to receive individual credit, make sure your individual names are in the message area and the attached plan. Only one submission per course team member on the same team. However, if you're on the same team as another 5320 student, each of you should have 3 strategies, not just 2 strategy activities that you're blending into your final project. So read all information in the checkbook well and check your schedule for the due date, which is at the beginning of the next session, first day. And here you'll see, here's the final team preliminary plan submission. It's a discussion thread. And so it says in here to read all information in the checkbook well. The checkbook is here under View Rubric. It's worth 50 points out of your 1,000 course points. And so in here it tells you exactly what's to be included. For example, the project-based planning content tells you exactly here what to have. The process, it tells you exactly what to have. Here it gives you a little more detail about if you're the strategist in the 5320, what you need to have, your implementation, your evaluation. So read through all of this to make sure that you know exactly what's expected. And when it's time to submit, then you'll come in here into assignment materials and actually submit it. So only one attachment needed per team, but each individual really does need to come in here and just say at least that we submitted our materials and here's how I contributed in the submission portion. That way it will flag me that you're ready to be graded, and I can go ahead and grade you individually and refer to the team submission. Just tell me who your team was and how you contributed. Okay, so that is the final team preliminary plan submission link. So after you're finished looking through the final team preliminary plan and referring to your document from last week and then actually submitting it, after all 3 of you, 2 or 3 of you have contributed to it with all that information, then you're ready to do the article summary, or as you're doing that. Because this team planning takes some time. If you haven't tried to make contacts with your local service site, you need to do that this session. If you haven't contacted your team members yet, you want to do that this session so that you can get that team plan submitted. And again, the team plan is the template that you submitted last session. That's a comprehensive project-based learning design plan. In your article summary and reflection towards a research paper, you're going to be submitting your first peer-reviewed article. towards your research paper this session. So last session I kind of gave you an overview of thinking about what topic would I like to write for my research paper. And again, in here I link you into a document that gives you some background into how to find your topic. In that document, once you download it, that is a link for a downloadable document, tells you in here an overview idea of what your paper should look like and your audience and paper guidelines. And it gives you some links into some websites where they have calls for papers. And I went over this a little bit last session, but you can come in for a call for a virtual presentation, for example, and you can look for their topics. And almost everyone has topics that you can look through. And decide what topics you would like to present under. So, for example, here, topics I would pick on would be maybe, depends upon what your final project's about, what your interest lies in, but it might be in workforce education, might be in virtual schooling if you're interested in like flip teaching, might be in mobile learning if you're interested in using some iPads or Android technology with your final project too. It could be about graduate education if you're interested in higher level learning. So there's lots of different topics in right here that you can take a look at, and you can think about how would I like to approach. In reality, you're trying to think about how could I write a paper for this conference and yet align the course objectives with it. So in here, it always points you to different SIGs. Special interest groups is a SIG. And so they give some ideas about what that group is about. And so you'll notice their topics are kind of broad. You can write about almost anything. So in here they talk about virtual schooling and how it takes an international focus, using different models to be used for virtual school opportunities. And so they're pretty open in some of this. So in your case, for this course, you are looking at strategies. And your base strategies are project-based learning. It also includes the other base learnings that you studied previously. And so you can use one of those base learnings for your crux of your research paper if you want to study the topic of how to integrate a specific content within project-based learning or specific technology within project-based learning. So it's open. You can also look at some of your specific strategies that you want to use. You may be interested in the jigsaw or the web quest that you want to check into how that can look in virtual education or hybrid education, online education. So you're looking for some kind of basic research topic like that. And as you decide that and trying to answer that call, you'll pick up on a topic and then you'll come in and start to find some research papers on that. If you have problems researching with our library, contact the TEMUCC website and go into the library portal and contact some people there if you need to. So you can always click on library here, come down to find articles and start there and start looking for research-based articles. And if you need some help, just call the library. There's some phone numbers down here and ask them for some help in how to review. They may point you to some websites first like maybe under research tools, remote access. So if you first need to get remote access to get into the library, you might want to go through that first. So there's some tools there to help you, and if that doesn't quite answer your questions, there's some phone numbers on here to call. So use the library, use the librarians. They like to help out with projects like this, trying to figure out what you're wanting to research and how to help you find those papers. So use that resource. It's a good resource. And here's your article summation. Oh, I gave you a couple of points up here. Let me review those quick. Sometimes people look at the rubric that is down here below. And up here I'm trying to describe to you the couple of stumbling points that sometimes people have looking at that rubric. One says the article directly addresses a chosen instructional strategy for your course project. So you may research how project-based learning or any of the other based learning strategies are used in learning environments. You may also choose to research a more specific strategy, such as the strategy team strategies that you worked on. Argument or position 1 and 2, there's two different criteria, two different rows in my rubric that talk about argument or position. You are asked to find two positions or arguments with which you read within a paper. I don't want you just summarizing the paper. I want you processing it. How does it speak to you? Do you agree with something based upon previous or concurrent research? If so, reference your source. Do you have a position based upon experience that can be backed up from some of the course readings? Go back and review some of those readings from the book or from our collaborative wiki that we had earlier. I'm having you revisit those things because I am trying to get you to review your readings and to be able to have some solid theory base behind what you're doing for project design. So always reference your sources, and in this argument or position I expect you to have a couple of different arguments or positions in the paper and at least one good source, one to two good sources to support your argument. You're to demonstrate that you are indeed reading and reflecting upon what you're reading within the course. So, with that said, here's the rubric. And you can take a look at that rubric. So here's the major criteria over here. Here's your content alignment, your introduction, your background and summation, and then there's the two arguments or positions, and your overall APA. Your original article is attached, so include the most recent APA. And then when it comes time for your Article 1 submissions, I have a link here that's going to take you to that appropriate discussion thread. And I give you reminders of when you're in that discussion thread what to do. So you may want to print that out first, and in general that's a good thing to do, is to print out your assignments each week so you can check them off as you go along so you don't miss anything. Usually if people read a little fast, they get confused because they're not sure what they're supposed to be doing. So it might be worth just even copying and pasting or printing out so that you can check things off as you complete them. Represent everything in order, so you want to do it in order. So back in the directions, I told you to come in here and create a thread and how to do it, so you'll be able to do that. Okay, so that gives you an overview of what this session 5 was about. And so in summary again, you have that quiz due the first day, your final project team preliminary plan, your final project plan submission, and then your article summary that you're working on. So if you have any questions, email me. You can email and request a Skype conference or a WebEx conference, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. And that goes for when you're meeting with your teams too. Feel free to invite me in on your team planning, or just let me know when it's going to be, and then if you really want me there, you'll just have to invite me in the last 10 minutes or so and let me know when that's going to be so you can ask some questions, and I'll try to make sure we can coordinate a time that's open where you can talk to me, or someone can Skype me later or WebEx with me later and ask those questions for the team too. So I look forward to seeing your team plans for this week.